the student organization has anything. Jesse?
The application deadline for April graduation is next Monday. So if there's any chance at all that you're going to graduate, you should apply because we can push it back, but we can never push it forward.
Okay, so for online people, the graduation deadline is this coming Monday. A few days from now, the 15th of November. If you think you're going to graduate in November, you will want to apply for graduation. And then, like Tyler said, we also do have the Donut Symposium Friday morning, 9 a.m. in the lab over there. And those who were at the conference last week will be just sharing some of the things they learned. And we would invite you to come if you weren't there and learn, or if you were there, come and share what you learned. And we're looking forward to that. Heather, is there anything from IPSO? Jennifer, anything from IPSO that we need to bring up?
We need your t-shirt designs. We want to have a t-shirt this year. We need a full design for your t-shirt. And those are going to do email with the link to submit it onto the PowerPoint, and then you can share with us your design and get it on the t-shirt.
Okay, t-shirt designs are due Friday, you said? Hey, you guys say you're creative, prove it by turning in a t-shirt design.
I want an awesome t-shirt this year, you guys.
Awesome t-shirts. I think now we're ready for our speaker. This is Melissa Burton. She's a graduate of our program, about 3 years, is that right?
2017.
4 years, 4 years now. So we're grateful to have her with us. She'll be sharing some of her experiences, particularly working at Ensign College that she's had since she's graduated. So if you please join me in welcoming Melissa to our seminar today.
Papers, so I won't forget what I wanted to say, because I guess I can take this off, right? You're all right. Hello, I'm Melissa Burton. I graduated from here just before they started knocking the walls out to remodel this area. So it's super fun to come back in and see how gorgeous it is. I mean, you don't know how good you've got it. Let's see. I graduated, I worked corporate for about 1.5 years, and then I moved to Ensign College, which was LDS Business College at the time. They changed our name when the church decided to emphasize the actual name of the church. And so we were actually one of the last department / properties, whatever you want to call it, of the church that changed our name because of all of the accreditation that had to go into the process of changing a college from one name to another. So now we're Ensign College, and shortly after my graduation, and I mean like, what, a month after my graduation, less than that, Sharon Eubank gave this quote, and I'm going to read it out loud because I want to. It says, "Innovation and creation are spiritual gifts. When we keep our covenants, it may make us different from others in our culture and society, but it gives us access to inspiration so we can think of different solutions. Different approaches, different applications. We aren't always going to fit in with the world, but being different in positive ways can be a lifeline to those who are struggling." And she said this in general conference, and I was like, that is for me. That is an instructional design quote. That is the kind of person I want to be. So I wrote it down on an index card, and I stuck it up above my desk of where I was working at the time. And I really wanted to work academic. And so I applied, for a job at Ensign College. They brought me in for an interview. I walked in and there was that quote up on the wall on a big sign. And it was like, this is where I belong. This is my place. I have found, because they value the same things that I do. And that's one big thing about Ensign College is it's all about innovation and creation and trying to come up with different solutions and different applications to teach our student body that we have. Let's see. So this college, we were founded in 1886. We are actually 2 years older than BYU Idaho. We just didn't have this name. We've gone through like 5 name changes in the course of our school. And this is what President Eyring said about our college. He said that students who think they have limited potential come to recognize they have found hope where they thought they could not hope and can dream dreams they had thought were impossible. Because we have a very different set of students that we are writing courses for than BYU does, or than any of the other CES colleges. So there was an article in the Church News, talked about the different church educational systems. I don't know how to say that. And BYU, they said, was the ambassador. So you guys are students at the Ambassador College. Everybody knows the name BYU. They've all heard of it. BYU Idaho is the teacher. They're all about teaching. They're all about figuring out different ways to teach something. BYU Hawaii was the Pacific Capstone, and then Ensign College is the applied curriculum developer. That's what we do. That's what I, as an instructional designer, do at Ensign College with the rest of my team. We help figure out what applied curriculum looks like in the lives of these students. Ensign College is very supportive, especially right now, of instructional designers and incorporating them into all the courses in the entire college, partly because our president, President Cush, is an instructional designer himself. He got his doctorate in BYU, no, not BYU, Idaho. One of the other Idaho colleges. He got his doctorate from Idaho in instructional design. And so he is super supportive of us and the way that we do things. Now, one of the weird things, not weird, unique. I shouldn't say weird. One of the unique things about Ensign College is our student body. We are very small. There's only like, I think 2,000 students on site. There are others that are online, and I'll get more into that in a minute. You know, it's a small college when you get an apostle to come and speak at devotional, and then he shakes the hand of every student on their way out of the room. It's small enough you can do that. You can shake the hand of the devotional speaker. But between 35 to 40% of our student body is international. And a lot of those have English as their second language, which means all of the courses that we write, we are trying to write in a manner that is accessible to students who are learning in a second language, which can be challenging and exciting and come up with one of those good words that means it's kind of hard sometimes, but we make it work. Let's see, what else did I want to say about that? Yeah, I think that's good. Let's talk about our mission statement. So this is what we try to do in every class. Now, I should explain a little bit about my part as an instructional designer. The president of the college has asked that every single course in the, well, it's not a university, every single course in the college be run through the instructional design department. That means we have our eyes on it, we have our hands on it, we help fix it or redesign it, because many of these courses have been taught for so long that it's been changed and then changed again and changed again and then changed again and then changed again. And it's a copy of a copy of a copy. And somebody else has those actual quizzes documents that are mentioned in here. And so they go find the teacher and ask for it. And the teacher may have left the college, or in years past, some of these courses were just a little bit, nebulous. So now every single course is running through the instructional design department, which means we have our hands full with making sure that every course we look at matches the mission statement. Our mission statement is to develop capable and trusted disciples of Jesus Christ. And that's a simple sentence. But what it actually means is we want to make sure the students are prepared with workplace competency. They should be able to have a skill when they leave that they can go in, get a job, and then be able to earn more money, or support their family or whatever. We have a lot of non-traditional students at Ensign College. These are people who have never been to college. They don't maybe have the grades to go to a bigger university. They are changing careers midlife. They are unexpectedly a single parent and need to be able to get a job to support their kids or whatever their new life situation is. And so they come to Ensign College because we're less expensive and they can get a certificate faster to walk out and be able to get a job. And we need to make sure they're capable of doing that. Trusted, they have to be able to trustworthy, be responsible. And then disciples of Christ, we're a church educational system entity. We start with prayer, we end with prayer. We try and incorporate gospel discussions, even if students aren't exactly members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they can still contribute, they can still take part. We want them to be able to walk out of there being a disciple of Christ in some way. And that's often the hardest for our teachers to figure out how to incorporate. Let's see if I had anything else to say about this one. I don't think so. Yeah, no, we're good. So let's talk about what we offer them. How do I want to say this? Different people come to Ensign College with different things they want to achieve. Some of them, like I said, just want a career change. Some of them want to become better at something they're already doing. If they're already working in IT, they come to get a certificate so they can, have something on their LinkedIn that says they're able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. It looks good and they're able to get a better job. So these are the different types of things we offer. Let's see, if your goal is to have a career boost, you can get a certificate. You walk out of there with a certificate in hand that says, I can do this thing. If you want a job or you want to change your careers, we've got associate's degrees that you can get. That are built off of the certificates. If you want to prepare for a job, you can get an associate degree with an emphasis. So we call that an applied associate's degree. So it's a little bit, more in depth. And then if you want to prepare for a job, we do, as of this semester, actually, we're offering our first 4-year bachelor's degrees. Brand new. When they announced the name change that we were going to be changing to Ensign College, they also announced that we were going to have some 4-year degrees. And all the instructional designers went, okay, here it comes. Because all those classes, we were the ones who were going to get to help design them. Most of the classes already exist that were put into these 4-year degrees, but not all of them. Which means that we're still, like I said, this is the first semester. I think they're only offering 1 or 2 of those degrees. I think eventually we're going to be offering 4. We're still working on trying to get the others into place so that we can offer them when it's time for them to come out. But the unique thing about the degrees that we're offering and the certificates we offer and the associates, all of those, is that they are stackable, which means they are inherently customizable for the person who wants to take it. And I was trying to decide, how do I explain this to you? And I realized the best way to show something stackable is to actually use stackable objects. So yes, I brought giant Legos to come and show you all because it's easier that way. So let's make sure I get this right. I had to write it down because since I'm in the weeds, I'm working down in here trying to make sure that the courses are all working well. Sometimes it's a little hard to see the vision above me. So I double checked with my boss before I came saying, okay, did I get this right? And he said, yes, but I just want to make sure that I'm actually showing it correctly. Okay, so you can get a certificate, which is like a single block. And that certificate, if you add GEs, some general electives to it, if you add, let's put that on the bottom there. If you add, so let's see, GEs and religion classes to your certificate, then that is an associate's. So you can, if you don't have time to get an associate's, you can just come and get your certificate. You can add on, have it be an associate's degree. It looks nice. If you want it to be an applied associate's degree, not all of these are Legos, some of them are different. If you want to be an applied associate's degree, you can have a speciality that you specialize in, that you add on top. What if you don't want an associate's? You want to go from one of these new 4-year, I want to call it a master's, but it's not, it's bachelor's. That's why I keep looking to make sure I use the right word. If you want it to be one of those new 4-year programs, then you use, it comes up to about 3 different certificates. You take 3 different certificates, you stack them on top of each other, you add additional generals, electives, you add additional religion, and you can see I'm building this bigger and bigger degree in my hand. But what if I want, I don't know, myself an example really quick because my brain's gone dead. What if I want to add a different certificate? Right, I can just cut one of them off and replace it with another one. Within, there's a certain realm of certificates that I can pick any 3, lump them together, add my generals and my religion classes, and make that into my own customized bachelor's degree that I can walk out of Ensign College with. And you can switch off certificates, add in a different one if you want to. So no two people who come out with the same, they'll have the same letters after their name. But it's going to be a different degree because it will be customized to them because they'll be able to pick the certificates they want inside of that specific realm. This is something we're still working on. This is a much less fun and uglier example of what I was just trying to show you, but it's more fun to show it with Legos, right? They can take any of these certificates, group them together, make them into a degree. If they particularly want it, this particular thing happens to be for communications. That's why these are communications related courses. These are some of the specific communication courses they can lump in if they want certificates. If they want to be an associate's, they'll have one of these plus these classes that they'll take. That makes it the associates. If they want to be a bachelor's, they'll do this plus additional religion and plus an additional core set of classes. So I guess I forgot that. You've got the certificates, but then you have an additional set of core classes that you take on top of that. That makes it into a bachelor's degree. And finally, you can emphasize with like either a no emphasis, you can just take a certain number of classes from anywhere in the college you want to, or you can take some specific emphasized classes. These ones happen to be for digital marketing and web and content design. There will be more added to this list. They're just still being developed. Because the nice thing about creating this stackable degree situation is that anytime we want to add a new emphasis or something the students can specialize in, we don't have to make an entire new degree. We can just make a new emphasis class that they can stick on the top, like the cherry on top of their sundae of a degree and specialize in that. So I hope you can, when I learned about this, I was super fascinated because I was like, whoa, it's like badges, except you get a degree out of it because you get to, pick what you want. So when I found out I was going to come and talk to you about it, I thought, okay, I'll share the stackable degrees because I'm sure they'll be excited and you might not be excited, but I was excited. I'm very glad that I get to be here. Yeah.
So are you using credentials for these different certificates or different classes?
Not a digital certificate. Do you mean like badges, like actual badges? Not as a whole. In some classes, we do have them earn badges as part of their coursework. For example, what's the one I was the other day? My mind went blank. I think it was business. We had them go on and take some LinkedIn Learning business badge type things and actually gain a badge. We gave them a bunch of different options. They could earn one that they wanted, and that was part of their coursework. But we are not yet doing something like that to replace one of the entire certificates. I don't know if that made any sense. Came out of my mouth and I was like, whoa. All the incomprehensives there, it's great. Okay. That was a really good question. And I actually do want to try and incorporate more badge-centered focus into I went blank, into my department. The thing is that BYU, you guys, you get to learn a lot about digital credentials. But I think there's only 2 of us at Ensign College in the department who are graduates from BYU. And the others come from backgrounds where that's not as big of a deal, the digital credential. And so you want to change the world, come get a job at Ensign College and you can join your voice in to help improve the with all of the new things that you learn in these classes. Yes, that was a plug to come work with us. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's see, where's my paper and my time? I don't want to keep you. Let's see, we talked about that. So the 4-year degrees that we're offering are business management, communications, and information technology. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that, but that's what we are offering. You'll notice that sorry, I'm just trying to come up with the best way of saying this that doesn't accidentally insult anybody. We offer very applied classes, very applied degrees. So you're not going to be able to come and get a bachelor's in Arabic because it's not offered. Because we offer things that people can come and get a job in right away. One of the examples that they share with us is if you are a person and you don't have a lot of money and you have a family or you have yourself or whatever that you need to support, but you want to go to school. How do you do that? How do you balance your money? If you're working a minimum wage job and you're still trying to go to school and you're still trying to support yourself and or your dependents, part of the way you can do that is by getting a better job. Part of the way you can get a better job is by getting certified so you can get that better job. So that's why we offer these basic certificates. And so somebody can come in, they can get their basic certificate in paralegal studies. That's actually a really good example. You can come in, you can get your basic certificate in paralegal studies, you can get a better job that pays more, and then you can start working toward the college degree or the university degree that you want while you're in a more stable financial situation. That's kind of what we're trying to do for these students. So they're all very applied. Yeah.
What's that? There's other colleges around that do similar things like Mountain Technical College, which is expanding in Utah. The Salt Lake Community College does a lot of that. So do you find that students who come to Ensign College are coming because of its location? Are they coming because of the religious orientation that they get the gospel faith-based kind of flavor to the learning? Or are they coming for other reasons? I mean, why are they choosing Ensign College as opposed to some of these other options?
That's a super good question. And I only know part of the answer because I'm sure that every student has their own reason for going where they go. Some of it is the location. We are right next to the train stop. You can take the train out, walk a block, and you're in the main office. I mean, easiest commute ever. Some of it, I think a lot of it is probably the fact that it is a school in the church educational system. And if they're a member of the church, they want to come, maybe they weren't able to get into BYU or they don't want to, for whatever reason, they choose to come to Ensign College. We are less expensive than the other church educational system entities. We are significantly less expensive. I think Pathways is the only one that can undercut us in terms of price. They've got their own audience. And I'll talk a little bit about that because recently Ensign College and Pathways have made an alliance and we're working together now, which is really cool. But kind of in answer to your question, I think a lot of it is the gospel aspect of it. Many of them try to transfer over to BYU, either at the end of their certificate or partway through. I would have to find out more about specific people's reasoning, but that's a super good question. And there are other places that offer this kind of thing. Absolutely. I just like ours better. What can I say? Let's see. The other thing I wanted to talk about on this slide was nothing. Okay. Let's talk about our learning signature. It was one of the links that I had sent out to you guys. I don't know if you actually got to see it or not, because I know when I was in your shoes, half the time I would be scrolling through it right before a seminar going, okay, let me look really quick at what they wanted me to know. But this was part of it. And I'm seeing a few looks of comprehension and nods, so that's good. But this is actually brand new. They only unveiled this in the last semester or two. So if you have super intelligent questions, we're probably still trying to find answers to some of those, but ask them anyway. Because like I said, remember the quote I gave from Sister Eubank at the beginning? It was all about changing, finding new ways to do things. That's what we're doing. And this is one of the new ways of doing things that we've done, is simplify all of the different, many things that we had to try and make it match to down to these three principles: prepare, act, and demonstrate. And the only reason I bolded act was to make it stand out from the other two, so it didn't look like it was one long confusing word. It really isn't any more important than the others. Whatever. But let's see, so prepare is preparing to develop and demonstrate professional capabilities, excuse me. We want them to be ready. And so some of this, especially when it's in a class, it might look like having them read something ahead of time. Think about what you'd want your students to do if they came to class, they showed up. What would you want them to do beforehand? That's the preparation. That's the prepare step. It can be applied to class. It can be applied to your career. It's a very general principle. We generally tend to apply it for classes. ACT has to do with acting as an agent of your learning in immersive environments. The immersive environments is important. Because the last thing we want to have students do is exactly what I'm having you do right now, which is sit in class and listen to somebody talk. So sorry about that, by the way. But we want them to be in an immersive environment. And what that means is that they're doing real and relevant learning experiences. I'm sure you remember well, a lot of you probably know the childhood primary song, I am a child of God. And at the end is teach me all that I must do to live with him someday. The word is do. It used to be no. And then the prophet asked Naomi Randall to change it to do. And I've heard some people since say, it actually should be teach me all that I must be. But whether or not they ever change that, those are the three things we want them to be able to we want them to be able to know, we want them to be able to do, and they want them to be able to become a disciple of Jesus Christ, or become a really good paralegal, or whatever it is they're here to do. So that's the principle of act. And then demonstrate is when they actually sit down and actually demonstrate the thing. Yes.
It kind of remind me of being in Idaho model of teach one another. And the one thing that I'm missing is that teach one another. So I'm thinking about, as you mentioned that your audience is the non-traditional students. I'm really interested in traditional students and what influence, what attention do you pay to learning communities and having them teach one another? And you know, because for non-traditional students, that's a big thing. What I've learned so far. I'm really starting my research, but learning communities and helping them belong to a learning community is quite an important aspect. I was wondering about that because I don't see the teach one another.
I'm smiling so big because I actually can answer this one. Because up until they unveiled this, we did the same thing as BYU Idaho, in that we had the prepare, ponder, teach one another, and prove. And those were the things that we were asking the students to do. And then they sort of shrank it into 3 things instead of 4. And that was exactly the question some of us in the instructional design department were asking, which is, wait, where did teach one another go? Because it's important that students be able to teach each other and share with each other. And the answer is kind of that it's split between act and demonstrate now, depending on the type of thing that they're doing. So demonstrating is actually producing the product or showing that you can measure up to whatever the requirements are. Acting is where you're actually putting I had to write it down because I'm still struggling with the difference between those two. And I know I'm an instructional designer, but they didn't ask me when they did this, so I have to double check to make sure I get it right. Acting is acting as an agent of your learning. And a lot of that does fall into the teaching one another, because if you're an agent, that means that you're actually, you're active, you're working with other people, you're working with yourself, you're trying to figure this out. And we do have a high priority of students teaching the other students, working together in groups, because what are they going to do when they get out in the real world? They're going to work with other people, right? They're going to be working with somebody else. And so we try and give them as much of that in their immersive learning as we can, make it as realistic as possible. And a lot of that is having them teach each other, work with each other. Personally, I've always hated group assignments, but we do have a bunch of those too. Let's see. Any other questions about the learning signature? Yes.
You're talking about that this applies to their, whatever they're going to be doing.
Mhm.
So, for instance, would a teacher say, you have this project, I want you to specifically apply it to what you're trying to do? Is that kind of the model? Is like, most classes have this idea of applying specifically to what you're doing, not just what we're doing in class?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question and make sure I got it right. If I apply, I've been working in paralegal, so my brain is stuck in paralegal. So let's go with paralegal because that's one of the courses I'm working on this semester. In actual paralegal would be able to fill out a certain set of documents. Correct? They're going to be working in the office. They should be able to fill out these documents. So when we have them in class, we have them learn to fill out those documents. We don't have them take like a multiple choice question of, if Jane is in this situation, which document should she fill out? We have the documents and we say, Jane is in this situation. What do you do? And they apply their learning because they've already learned about the situation, right? They've already learned about these documents. They apply that learning by selecting the correct documents, filling them out correctly and turning them in. Did that kind of answer your question? Or did I completely go off on the road? Okay. I'm still not sure if I got that sufficiently answered what you said, but any other questions about this? Changed your mind, yes.
Well, I'm just wondering about the model and the relationship that you have as designers with the faculty. And are you working closely with them, or do they just facilitate the courses that you create?
And it's like I planted you in the audience or something. Perfect. Let me show you how this works. So we're put in design teams. There's usually 3 of us in a team. There's me and the instructional designer, or one of my peers. We've got the subject matter expert. This is usually someone who's taught the class before. They're very familiar in their area. And then we have the instructional design assistant, which is my student employee assistant that works under me. The instructional designer is both the designer and the project manager. So I'm the one who gets to be looking at my watch going, okay, we really need to finish up these projects because I have to turn it in for a quality check and we have to get it uploaded into Canvas in time for, whatever. So I'm also the project manager. There's a bunch of different hats. The subject matter expert, like I said, they're the teacher. Often they're a faculty member. Here's the thing about Ensign College. Most of our teachers are experts in their field. Most of them are not educators. So they come in, and the last time many of them actually were a student in a class was when they were in college. That could be anywhere from 5 to 30 years ago, right? Depending on the age of the person. They come in and they're like, well, let's do a lot of quizzes because I want to make sure they know this. So let's give them lots of quizzes and lots of multiple choice tests. And then I'm over here, the instructional designer going, if you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to be filling out a multiple choice test, right? That's not what you do as an entrepreneur. You're actually going to develop a business. So let's use your expertise to come up with real and relevant activities, learning activities these students can do that prepare them to actually be able to step into the workforce and do their thing. So not only are you the project manager and you're the instructional designer, you're also the subject matter expert wrangler, because you're sitting there trying to work them down from what they've always done and what they've always wanted to do and actually get them to share their knowledge with you in a different format than they're expecting. That's the hard part. So if you ever work with a subject matter expert, or as we like to call them, a SME, be prepared to have a strong arm and a really nice smile, because you're going to need both of them. So let's see. So we have a 2-semester development process. Actually, we have a 1-semester development process and a 1-semester pilot process, by the end of which time the course should be ready to go out to the students. This is super fast. This is a very fast development turnover process, and it needs to be good quality, and it needs to be fairly inexpensive. I don't know how many of you remember Andrew Gibbons? Not like the elder. His son currently works in St. College, so he's like Andy the younger and Andy the elder in my brain. Anyway, he had this thing he used to say: you can have it fast, you can have it cheap, or you can have a good quality. Pick 2, because you can't do all 3. We're trying to do all 3, and we're actually not doing too bad. I asked my boss if I could compare it to other development processes in length, so you can see how fast this really is. And he said, no. So I can't share with you how fast it is compared to like other church educational system entities, but I can tell you it's super fast. So what we do in the development semester, the first 3 weeks, we spend blueprinting. You all know what a blueprint is? I figured you might, but I thought I'd bring a visual aid anyway, just because I could. This happens to be a blueprint of the room you're sitting in right now, which is kind of cool. And I know that you can't see it, and I couldn't get a picture of it up on there because it would be even smaller than it is in my hand. So whatever, but here, let me put my mask on and I can walk down while holding it. If you look at it, you'll notice it's maybe not exactly the same as the place that you're used to seeing. Because they came up with this early on, before this place was actually built. I'm going to shut up for a minute so the online people don't miss what I'm saying as I walk back. This is not mine. A friend of mine loaned it to me. I can give it back to them afterward, but I thought it'd be a fun thing to show. You can see like desks, you can see screen placement. You kind of get the idea that this is what this room is supposed to look like, right? Part of the purpose of a blueprint is for construction purposes, correct? So that you know where the doors are going to be, where the windows are going to be, how thick the wall is going to be, what kind of cables are going to run through there. So we spend the first weeks of this process blueprinting. And here's how we do it. So like I said, skills-based, real, relevant. So we sit this me down our first week and we say, what does a paralegal do in the office in family law? I'm using that example because that's what I'm up to it in here, up to here right now. I'm working on a family law paralegal course. Really cool. What do they do? And my person says, well, I've got this great test that I give them. And I'm like, okay, but what do they do in the office? Well, I have them fill out these forms. Sometimes they'll talk to the client. I depend on them to get this information from them. Great. Those are the most important things, right? Sometimes there may be a certification the student has to pass, correct, in order to be able to make it. So we write those big things down. Those are the big things. Those are their real world skills, right? I usually don't have to make up the objectives. Those are usually given to me by the program chair who is over the entire program. They sort of have the bird's eye view, right? They can look down and see how all their classes fit together. So they'll say, for this class, I want it to meet these requirements. Those are my objectives. I might tweak the wording a little bit. In my job, I don't come up with those. In your job, you might. So learning how to make good objectives is an important skill to learn. Learning how to apply those is also important, making sure that they are carried through in the class. Because I had one person I worked with who was a dear and a great guy. And I said, what are the course objectives you're working with? And he said, here they are. I said, great. They have nothing to do with your course. He said, Are they supposed to have anything to do with my course? But yes, your objectives are supposed to have everything to do with your course. So we have the objectives. We make sure that the skills align with those objectives, right? And then we start figuring out what they need to do to get that skill. They need to know the names of the forms they have to fill out, right? They need to have, they need to be aware of the confidentiality laws when you're working with a client, what kind of things are and aren't you allowed to share, you know, whatever. I don't know all of those because I'm not the subject matter expert. They are. My job is to guide them, to tell them what those things are. We list them, and then we come up with supporting material for each of those. Is there a resource? What do they need to read? What do they need to know how to do? Do they need to learn how to use a computer? I mean, how low is the bar we're working with here that we have to get them on before we can start bringing them up to the level they need to be at? We figure out what all that is. And well, kind of those first 3 points, that's what our blueprinting is. We make a blueprint of what the course is going to look like. And it's ugly. It's not very pretty. It looks like this, which is super ugly, but I thought I'd show it to you because it's nice and visual. If you happen to be a visual learner, it's, I don't know if hopefully the online people can see it. It's a chart, weeks 1 to 14, because our semester is 14 weeks long. And we say, okay, this is all the stuff you told me they need to know how to do. Let's lay it out in order. The reason we do this on this chart is because a lot of times they're not thinking 3D. Sometimes they aren't even thinking chronologically. And we'll get to an activity and I'll be like, but wait, we're talking about the annotated outline up here. Shouldn't we have somewhere up at the beginning where we actually tell them what they're outlining? Well, yeah, I guess that'd be helpful, says my SME, who doesn't really know anything about educational progress. They just know their stuff and that's what they're there for. So we lay it all out across the 14 weeks. If you notice up here at the beginning, I've got these boxes. These are their outcomes. This helps us have a very visual way of making sure that every outcome is represented in an activity, at least one activity throughout the course. So the students are actually completing things that line up with those outcomes. One of the ways that we try, because we're very applied, right? We want these students to be able to walk out and get a job. So our course outcomes, we try and write it in language so the students can go to the catalog, they can copy the outcomes, they can paste them in their syllabus, not syllabus, wrong word, resume, they can paste them in their resume and be able to say, I can do these things. I can prepare and carry out a legal research plan. I can properly use citators and citations. Those are different things in the legal world. I did not know that, which is why I have my SME, right? So this is how we lay it out, so we can make sure everything is represented. And like I said, it's ugly, but it works. Once we do that, once we have that document, then we actually start developing the material. The students will see, we have material for the teacher, because like I said, remember, these teachers are not experts at teaching. They are experts at doing their thing, which is not teaching. So they get in there and we have a teaching plan for them. So they can look and say, oh, right, I'm covering this stuff in class this week. I can do that. And then they have all of the correct material gets covered. Because if they walk in with nothing, they're like, hi guys, I don't really know what we're talking about, so we'll just come up with something, right? And not everything will get covered. So that's why we have notes for the teachers, we have notes for the students. That's how we're a little bit different from a lot of other colleges. You often have teachers who actually know how to teach. But they're wonderful people all the same. I'm not trying to say bad things about them. They're just experts in different areas. Put my paper down, I don't know why. Let's see. Talked about that, talked about that. Right. The semester, right? We've developed this thing. We've had periodic reviews with the program chair, our bird's eye person, right? So they can look down and say, actually, we have another class that covers that topic, so kind of stop going that way and, course correct. They sit and make sure that we're headed in the right direction. I'm down there in the weeds with the subject matter expert, making sure that it all works out. We make this course. We happen to use Canvas. I think this process would work well in pretty much any learning management system you want to use. Then we have a pilot semester where our course goes to the students and the students find all the problems in it. Because yes, we've run it through quality checks and we've had proofreaders go through it and I've gone through it and the subject matter expert has gone through it and my instructional design assistant has gone through it. And then we hand it to the students and they sit there and they're like, I found a typo. The link is broken. They're going to find all those things that are wrong. So that's why we have a pilot semester. We have the semester, they find all the things, it's all written down in a list. And then my job next week, so when I get to start doing it for the courses I'm currently piloting, is to actually go through and actually fix all of those problems. So that then at the end of the pilot semester, it should be ready to go to the rest of the school. There shouldn't be any more things in there. Does that kind of sort of answer your question about how we work with our faculty? How we interface with them? That really was perfect. You asking that question right then.
Do the faculty, what's their role in the teaching process? I mean, do they lecturing?
So what's the role in the teaching process of the faculty?
Because you're creating, it sounds like you're creating, it looks like you're creating online courses. So are the faculty developing skills in facilitating those courses, or because obviously you're changing what they were used to doing?
Yep, we're changing it up. And that's actually a very good question. He asked, sorry, I forgot to repeat it for my online friends. Hi. He was asking what the role is of the faculty, because this sounds like an online course development process. And since COVID, that's actually kind of confusing. This is for both face-to-face and online courses. In fact, part of what we're doing right now is every course we design 2 of it. One is the online version and one is the face-to-face version. So right now I'm working on 2 courses, right? I'm working on an IT course and I'm working on a paralegal course. But in actuality, I am developing 4 courses, an online and a face-to-face version of each of those 2. Which makes our crazy short timeline feel even shorter, but hey, it works. And the faculty, if they're the subject matter expert, sometimes they will be the one to teach it, to pilot the course. Sometimes we'll hand it to an entirely unrelated person to make sure that someone who didn't help make the course up can actually teach it. It kind of depends. But every course is taught by a faculty, and if it's a face-to-face class and the faculty member is in class, actually most of them are adjunct faculty because they've got their own jobs on the side. But they'll either do a face-to-face class where they facilitate, they answer questions, they have got their lesson plan that they go through with the students. If it's an online class, we still want the teacher to be very involved and very engaged. That can look like sending out videos every week to the students, answering questions from the previous week. We've got a 48-hour time limit in which online teachers are required to answer questions given to them by the students. So whether they're face-to-face or online, they are very active and very involved. At least they should be. That's the hope. But that's my job, is to give them stuff to work from. So I don't really, hopefully the faculty figured it out, right? Once it's after the pilot semester, it's out of my hands. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about this? I think that was pretty much it for this part. Basically, you don't have to know everything. Yeah, your SME knows it. What?
I have a quick question. So if you say that it's all newly developed, right? And then what happens? Like, are there any updates?
Yes. So we make the course, we give it to the program chair, who is the person over the program. They're controlling it. And then the program chair is the one who, handles the any further updates. If it needs to be major, then they'll go on and let us know. And I just noticed that my time is actually up. But if you want to learn more about what we do or our job or how we're related with Pathways, let me know. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come back and talk with you all. It was really fun to be back.
Senator Time, thank you for being with us today. It's time now for our soup lunch, so we'll adjourn there and we'll be back here for another seminar next week.
Okay.